Hello, and welcome to the National Franchise Show. I'm your host, Liane Caruso. Produced by the National Franchise Show, this podcast is your ultimate guide to finding the best franchise opportunities in the US and Canada. In each episode, we dive into insightful conversations with leading franchise brands actively looking for qualified candidates to join their brand. And today, we're very excited to have Kelly Tope, the Senior Director of Franchise Development at Speed Automotive. Thank you so much for joining us, Kelly.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll dive deep into your brands.
Yes, thank you. Well, franchising has been my life. I have been in franchising in one way, shape, or form for the past 28 years. So long time. I started when I was really young. But I just fell in love with it. I love franchising. I love the model. Most of that time has been spent in development. I did spend a little bit of time in operations as well, which I always say was great because it kind of gave me the insight of being on that side. So that then when I work with candidates, I'm able to understand what they're going through and what their world is going to look like when they get to the other side. So I'm glad that I had that time as well. And then I did also have a short stint in actual recruiting on the outside of franchising, but we were still recruiting for franchise brands. And so I was still very much involved in franchising and really had the push to come back because I thought, I could do these roles and I could get in there and wanted to be back on that side. So I came back into the actual franchise side of it and I have loved it. It's just, there's something about being able to put people with the brand that matches up best with them. And then them achieving that goal of really either growing their portfolio or finally going into, becoming an entrepreneur and stepping into that side, but having that support behind them is just something that I really love being able to kind of mold the two together and be able to marry them.
That's awesome. So I know you're only 30 and you've had 20 years
Yeah,
of experience.
exactly.
I mean, but you do have some big names behind you. You have UPS Store, Supercuts, Cost Cutters, Bruegger's Bagels, Taco John's. I mean, those are some good brands you've worked with.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very proud of the career that I've had. I've been with some amazing brands and amazing teams at the same time. And, to look back at that and know that, I've also been in multiple industries. I mean, to be able to really say that I've been in all those different industries, it's been a really fun career. It's something you can look back at and not only, like I said, feel proud of, but also the growth and the experience and what I've learned throughout those years, and really being able to place the right people with each one of those brands and knowing that those candidates were ultimately very different in what they were looking for, and what they were trying to go into. And, when I first started, I was with a company called Management 2000, which we were actually the first organization that was really outsourced from different franchise brands to basically do all of their franchise recruiting. So we had 6 different brands at one time that we were talking to, and we'd have different phone lines that you'd pick up because you represented each one of those brands. And you would go in from a conversation, with somebody who wanted to know about, where you landed on the stock market the day before to, how the NASCAR race turned out the next day. And, you're able to really have those conversations. And I love being able to kind of mesh into each one of those brands and be able to really truly find the uniqueness about those brands and what that individual is going to be looking for into why that matches with them. So it's almost like a puzzle. It's almost like, making sure that you kind of fit all the different pieces of the puzzle together and then making sure that that's obviously the best for them because, I want to be able to fall asleep at night knowing that their investment and their time and what, the thing they're going to spend time away from their families doing, really is something that ultimately is the best for them, the best for their family, and also the best for the brand to make sure that there's somebody that wants to stay in that for the long term. I'm not bringing in somebody that just wants to, be there for a year or two, and then they're going to need to look to exit for some reason or another. So that's not doing them any good. That's not doing the brand any good. So it's really about making sure that, as you're dating them and then, marrying, going back to the very old school terms of being in franchise development, that, that is really truly going to make the best relationship for both parties moving forward. And no hard feelings if it's not the right brand. It's okay.
Right.
It's all right for us not to get married to each other and for us to walk away. And you can go all the way down to the altar and still say that. You just need to be able to say, is this the best fit for both sides? And I love that I've had the longevity I have and being able to determine that, and really truly pride myself on making sure that this is the best fit and that, you're knocking it out of the park as much as you can and making sure that you're bringing in the right people.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's business ownership, right?
It
So
is.
industry only matters in what you're passionate about and the best return on your investment. So
Yeah.
speaking of switching careers and industry, you're now in automotive. So tell us about Full Speed Automotive and the brands that you guys that are in your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. When I looked to join Full Speed, when I was actually, originally looking at it, I did ask myself the question, which I know is the same thing that our candidates are asking. Why automotive? Why do I want to go into this? Why is this now the thing that I want to be able to represent and share with people? And, I took a really long, hard look at it to make sure that, I, as, a woman also going into automotive, what was that going to look like? And what was that going to look like to share that brand with people? And really, this brand, this company, and this organization, and the brands that we have, when I started digging in and really looking at it further, I loved the history, just the longevity that they've had in it. I love that they are not owned by a specific oil company. So we're able to actually, I knew that that meant that we were going to bring in the best quality at the best, the best negotiated prices that we could for franchisees, which is highly important to make sure that, everything that we're doing for them and for the people that I'm bringing in and that we're going to be representing, that I know that we're always going to be doing the best we can for them to drive the best deal that we can for them. And that's important when I'm asking them to believe in us and trust in us and come into this and know that we're going to present the best thing we can forward to them. And then that's what I'm asking them to engage in and then represent to different customers out there, and what they're going to show out there. So I had to really look at it from almost a standpoint on being a franchisee. If I was going to be a franchisee of this brand, would I want to do that? Would I want to represent them? Would I want to share what they're offering out to the community that I'm in, that is going to look at me and say, oh, I'm presenting the best option at the best prices. I'm going to give them the best customer service. Do I feel like Full Speed as a, overall umbrella over Grease Monkey and Speedy and Quick Car, are they doing that in general for their franchisees? Because then the franchisees are going to want to do that out into the communities. And so, it took me very little time to figure out that they are exactly spot on. And that's exactly who they are and what they do. And I'm very happy to be representing that out to my, not only the candidates, but then knowing that's going out into the community.
That's great. So tell us about the three brands that you guys have. Is it
Yeah,
three?
so technically under Full Speed Automotive, we have 18 brands. So
Oh,
we
goodness.
are
It's a
definitely
little
well
off.
versed. Yeah, well versed in the automotive side. But the three that we're growing are the Grease Monkey, Speedy, and Quick Car. And those brands, although they're all automotive and they all have some component of, obviously quick lube and then repairs, they each have a different slight little niche in there. So we look at it, a Grease Monkey typically tends to be more the brand for us that is more quick lube. It is certainly has light services in it. So windshield wipers, fluids, that type of thing. And you will see a few of those out there that also do like tires and jump into that side. But for the most part, they're really the quick lube and then also light services. Your Speedy, I always say, kind of sits right in the middle of that. So Speedy can be very flexible. It can go more towards the quick lube side, but it does also have the ability to do full repairs. So really most of those will run on more of a 50-50, 50% quick lube, 50% repair. And that can be all the way, tires, really getting into full repair. So not just the fluids and the, windshield wipers and so forth, but really getting into the repair side. And then Quick Car is really more full repair. So that one's going to have less quick lube. So their focus is going to be more on maybe one bay of quick lube and the rest would be repairs. And so what we say is, what I love about that is that we run the gamut. We can cover anything that somebody wants to come in and look at for automotive, all the way from just straight quick lube up to full repairs, full service, tires, everything that they would want to do, alignment, anything that they need to do for their vehicle. And honestly, one of the biggest questions we get lately is, well, with the electric car, coming into play, what does that look like for your brands? And are you guys still going to need to, is there still going to be a need for your brands? And the answer is yes, absolutely yes. And two different reasons for that. One is the electric car, kind of the trend and the boom in that. Although, yes, there are certainly regions that it is very big and very popular and growing, there are also factors in there that are shifting that a little bit. For instance, I'm in Minnesota. The electric car here is going to perform very differently than one in California. And so, the amount of time people are going to have to spend charging it, how quickly they're going to need to charge in between, simply because of the cold that we have here in this state compared to a California. So that is something where, the people that I know and a lot of people looking at electric cars, they certainly may still utilize that. They may still have one in their family, but they're also still going to have a car that they can run in the winter that is not going to need to be charged as often. And so we're still going to service those vehicles as well as the second factor in there. So they're still going to need to bring their electric vehicles in for fluids, windshield wipers, lights, the batteries that are in the vehicle. So all of those things are still going to need to be serviced at one of our locations. And so we still are absolutely going to find them as customers of ours coming in.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's a lot of changes, and I'm sure that you'll shift with the changes, and
Yeah.
regular cars aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you look at an industry that's about 517, million within just the industry, and, the number of miles driven every year, and just the number of vehicles that need to be serviced, and people are keeping their vehicles longer. They're keeping a couple reasons, obviously the chip shortage during COVID and everything that created, obviously created a very large issue for people in getting vehicles. But really just the longevity of about 12 and a half years is the typical length of time now that people are keeping their vehicles. And that to do that and to keep those vehicles running, they need to be servicing them frequently to make sure that they're keeping everything changed, making sure their oil is changed within a timely manner, not stretching that out and having it be, 10,000 miles in between oil changes. So those are things that obviously our service is still needed for, as well as the fact that, people doing that at home isn't as common anymore as it was before. So many more people are now needing to take that in to actually get it serviced somewhere rather than being able to do their oil changes at home.
That's great. Do you what are some of the what are some of the qualities that you look for in a candidate coming in? I'm sure that you have some basic requirements and some ideal candidates, but what are some of the qualities that you like to look for?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few of the key factors that we look for is we're looking for somebody who is either going to be owner operated and actually be in their location. Doesn't mean that they're changing the oil on every vehicle that comes in, but that they're actually there and running it and operating it. And the other one is semi-absentee. So what we are not looking for is absentee. These locations do need to have some presence. Now, I say that with, that does not mean at all that they can't be multi-unit. They absolutely can. And what we're looking for is for them to come in, even if they're semi-absentee, really get that initial location up and running, get it to a really solid place. And then, yes, they will move to then open the additional second, third, fourth, fifth locations. So they're not going to necessarily be in that first location as often, but now they understand the brand, they understand the operations, and they can look to put a really strong manager in that first location so that they can look to then grow and expand from there. So certainly, owner operated semi-absentee, and then somebody that brings in some business acumen, they have some knowledge of, those business skills. Doesn't mean they have to have been an entrepreneur. Maybe in their career, they've had, some touch on marketing, maybe they've had management skills, whatever that may be that they've had experience in, so that they can bring that to the table and kind of marry that with our operations and what we're doing. And, certainly somebody who is a part of their community, someone that understands their community, how they're going to look to market that in the community, that they're going to want to talk to everyone that, they come in contact with about this business that they have. And, hey, come on in, and hey, we're running a special, and, those types of things. So somebody who's able and willing to really be a part of that community are probably the first three factors that we're going to look for as kind of the strongest. And then obviously everything that they add from there is just an additional bonus. They're just bringing that in, makes them an even stronger candidate as they move through. But as you know, with franchising, if they bring those things in, our job then is to make sure that we are actually training them on how to utilize our system. How are they going to go out and market to their community? All of those factors. But if you have somebody that really doesn't want to kind of get in their community at all, certainly we can give them the training to do it. But if they're not comfortable doing that, then that's something that we need to know, okay, they need to bring somebody in to do that piece? Or how do we train them differently on that marketing side to make sure that they can still get out in the community and really drive that business?
Well, that was a perfect segue into my next question, which is what support and training do you guys provide to your franchisees, marketing, operations, otherwise?
Absolutely. So, typically, yes, we obviously do have, as most do, a training program and certainly the support there for marketing. The one thing I will say is when I join a brand, that is one of the key factors that I look at, because for me, that speaks volumes for the validation that you're going to get from your franchisees. So it is very important that I make sure that that system is in place, that they have great support for their franchisees, which we do. So not only from real estate, helping to find the location, helping to negotiate out leases or negotiate out, the properties, all the way through to construction and design, someone to take them through that side of it, a full marketing team that will literally not only, help them with how they can go out into the community, help them with their website, help them with their social media. If they're not great at posting on social media, we can help and step in and help on that side. So all of those things that we will basically on a step-by-step help them all the way through the process. A liaison that will literally take them from the time that I sign them up into our system all the way through those different support teams, all the way to opening, and then be there for, helping them through their, what we call FSDs, who are the field people that will go out and actually help them in getting open, and be there for their soft opening, be there for those first few days to really help them. Maybe they forgot, something on their, on their system for ringing someone up, or what does that look like? Or, that type of thing. We're there to actually help through that and kind of guide them and their employees through that as they get through those first days of opening. But training itself is a week in Denver. So it is a full week at our home office. That's where they're going to learn mostly their, business side of it. All of the things that they need for operations. Then they're going to go and they're going to actually do their physical stuff there on site, and obviously be on site, have that training from their FSC, be there at the beginning to help train them in what they're doing, actually on site as well. They can spend time in existing locations to actually get that, understand what does it look like when a customer comes in? What do we talk to them about? What do we say? How do we guide them through, the things that they might need? One of the things that we are really strong about is not being, too overpowering to somebody when they come in. They drive in, we're not immediately going, oh, you have to do these 20 things today, in order to come here. They came for an oil change. We work through sharing with them what they need and what they may want to look for moving forward, but, not necessarily telling them like, oh, you have to have those before you drive out today, being able to share with them, here's the things that we would suggest and the things that we feel that you're going to need on your vehicle. And it then also creates a repeat customer. It allows them to want to come back because, oh, that's right. I remember Kelly said that I need to, do this on my vehicle next time. I'm going to go back and have them do that because they pointed that out to me. And they build that relationship and that rapport with them then to where they feel comfortable. And key is they trust you and they trust that you know what you're doing, and then they want to come back. And that's all components that we'll train people on to make sure that they're comfortable in that when they go into their location and they're ready to actually do it on their own.
That's awesome. Where are you looking to expand to? What territories or regions?
So the nice thing about this is even though we're very strong in our brands, I mean, we have about 521 locations between all of those three brands, and those are split between corporate and then franchised, but great brand representation for all of three of the brands. And so, really, but what that also says is that we do have a lot of white space that we can still work with as well, which is amazing. So not only can we bring in new people into the brand in key areas, key large markets, because look, if we can't do Grease Monkey there, we can look at possibly doing Speedy or Quick Car. So, we have the ability to grow not only in an, individual that wants to do maybe a single unit, but also for multi-unit. So we have amazing flexibility in bringing people in. So we have different brands they can choose from. We have different models in those brands they can choose from. They can do a Grease Monkey, but like I said, they can do it with a little bit extra. Maybe they want to do a little bit more services than just the quick lube and the light services. Great, we can do that and we can build that, and we can do that on a single unit. We can go in and do that on multi-unit. We have franchisees who are not only multi-unit franchisees, they're multi-unit, multi-brand. So they not only believe in the brand they're in, they believe in us enough and what we're doing to expand to another brand. So so we have so much potential for people that this is just an amazing place for people to grow their portfolio and continue to just expand beyond the single location that they may come in under.
That's so cool. What a great opportunity, because even if I say I'm in Tampa and I wanted to open one of them, but one of them wasn't available, but I have two other to choose from. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And also multi-state. I mean, we'll look at going to another state with you once you get established. And once okay, I've got this brand, I understand the operating system, I know what I'm doing. Now I actually want to expand, I'm in Florida, I want to expand over to Louisiana, or I want to expand up to Georgia. We will absolutely allow that. So, the possibilities are infinite with this, that people can really look and get in and understand that they can just continue to grow and continue to build.
That's amazing. Just off the cuff, what is your female ownership like?
Yeah, actually, we do have a lot of teams. So we have a lot of couples that are kind of teamed together that are both in it, and each will typically divide, who runs and operates which portion of it, which section of it. But we do have some female franchisees as well, and so and certainly even not only coming in on their own, but also potentially kind of taking it over and really then expanding and then growing with it. So yeah, that is another key thing that I love about this is that it is certainly, I think people, and as I said, when I was looking at coming in and saying, hey, being a woman in automotive, what's that going to look like? That is one of the factors that actually helped me decide as well, was the fact that we did have female franchisees and teams. I think that's also the key thing too, is also the couples that come in and they run them and operate them together. So, and also just from a corporate standpoint, the number of women that we have within our overseeing the support teams and really the part of that support for them also is very significant. And so, that really spoke volumes to me, just as a female coming into this industry, that, it is not, it's certainly, it's a good mix between the two. And that was one of the things that I loved.
Yeah. I just traditionally
Yeah.
franchising is male dominated.
Yeah.
Automotive is male
Yep.
dominated. So you being in the role that you are, I think is pretty powerful and probably pretty inspiring to women coming in who may not know that this is a viable opportunity for them to be just as successful. And it's very, very, very cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the things that you look at is, again, I mean, certainly they can change the oil if they, want to jump down there and change the oil. But, the key pieces of it are knowing and understanding that business acumen, coming in with those skills. We will train on the other things, we will train on those things that may seem like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't know what a lug nut was, those kind of things. I mean, certainly we can look to train on those pieces, but it is, very valuable to come in with that business skills, understanding how to manage people, that side of it, and having the relationship skills that are needed to be able to work with your employees, and understand, how to manage that moving forward. And then wanting to strive to build and grow. I mean, those are all factors that, that does not, there's obviously no discrimination in that. That is certainly just a human factor of coming in and being able to have those skills and have that drive to push that forward.
Right. That's great. Tell us about the investment levels involved.
Yeah, yeah. So, what we look for in somebody coming in, and this is across all three brands. We look for 400,000 in liquid assets and 600,000 in total net worth. And one of the reasons that that component is there is obviously the total project cost. We want to make sure that people coming in have the ability to get financed for these projects. If we lower those amounts, then you have difficulty when it comes to getting finance. And we want to make sure that that is something that is really easy process for people. So when we look at that level, and by the way, that can be met by individuals or by partner groups. So it doesn't have to be met by just one person. And so certainly moving them into then coming into the total project. Total project, usually you're looking somewhere ranging about 750 to about 950 for total project cost. That is typically though on a location that you're going to be doing the full build out. So it could be that you find a building, but it's, needs to be fully redesigned. It needs all the equipment in it, or it's, greenfield where it's going to be ground up. So we run on three different models. So one is greenfield, which I just mentioned was really ground up. Then you've got your brownfield, which is a location where maybe there's a building there. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was a quick lube building, but just a building there. And they're going to go in and they're going to basically convert that, and really, put in all the equipment, put the paint on, do the colors, do the signage. But at least there's a building there already that they can use the main structure of. Then there's true conversions where you have a location that is running, and maybe it was a mom and pop location, and they go in and they actually take over that location. So it already has, equipment in it and things that we can utilize. And so that's a situation where maybe it's more just the redesign, paint, logo, maybe some structure design, but for the most part, they're going to be able to kind of go in, take that building and really just do a little bit of conversion and then get open. So those are really the three models that we move on the most. And that's going to vary. People will say, well, which one do you do most? It really depends on the market, and it depends on what you find Our real estate team is amazing at being able to find not only greenfield, raw land that somebody can go in if that's what they choose to do, but also those conversion locations that somebody can go in and really take over a location that's already operating. So our real estate team will run that fully. They know both, all different times, or all different types, sorry, and all different styles. So they will present a franchisee with anything that's in that market that fits. And then that franchisee can decide, what fits best for them and what they're looking to do.
Well, it all sounds so perfect and I want to sign up right away, but we
Awesome.
know that there are always challenges that
Sure.
that a franchisee might face. What would some of those challenges what might those be?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, somebody might say, the finding a location, finding land. I mean, certainly if they say, I want raw land, or certainly conversion, because conversion can also sometimes be, there's only so many people that have those that are looking to sell the locations, or, maybe it closed at one point in time and there's only so many of those out there. So, location, it's not impossible. It is certainly not something that, some people can do it and find it within 2-3 months. Some locations in some areas may take more 5 to 6 months. So that is probably one of the factors that we know in some markets. We already have some locations. We already have some places that real estate's been looking at. They're able to quickly move somebody into that. Then there's also some other markets where it may be a little bit more difficult, that it may be something that may take a couple more months than it takes in some areas where we've got large volume that we can really pop somebody in really quickly. So that's probably one of the pieces that's the most unknown in different regions. I will say again, some regions we already have stuff. No, we know they're working on stuff. They've talked to landlords. They've talked to people looking to sell. They know areas that they're going into. But then there are some areas where, they may have looked at it, but maybe there just isn't anything that was readily available. So somebody coming in, it may take them a couple months to actually find that perfect spot that they want to go into.
Yeah, usually it's the build out in every brand.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say it's usually that real estate piece is kind of the key thing. And that's why I will say it's nice that our team already has identified locations and areas that we want to go into and that we know we're looking at building and expanding, because that gives us that leg up. It gives us a chance to know that, like, if we bring somebody in that area, and those are areas, by the way, that we obviously heavily market for looking for candidates. So we know that those are areas that, like, hey, we can get somebody in and we can pop them in pretty quickly. Let's make sure we drive our marketing for lead gen in that area so that we can get people moved into those spaces. So, those are areas that they probably will see us heavily in anyways. But definitely it doesn't mean that we're closed out anywhere else in the US. It just might mean that they haven't necessarily gone in and specifically identified some locations there.
That's cool. So, can you share some success stories or testimonials from franchisees
Yeah.
that like particularly stand out in your mind?
Yeah, so there's one that I love that so we have our coming up in March is our actual conference that we do. We do it every 2 years. So it brings in all of our franchisees from all 3 brands. So everybody comes in and we all join together, which is amazing, obviously, because they get a chance to network with other franchisees, network with other franchisees of other brands within our umbrella. So it's just a great place for them to come and learn and grow. But the one that I love that we did an actual video testimonial for that we're going to share there is a franchisee who had been a car guy his entire life, literally was turning wrenches when he was very young, always knew that he loved automotive, wanted to be a part of it. Came in, became a franchisee, actually had gone in and had looked at a location, decided to become a franchisee, actually got somebody from that other location, that not from one of our brands, but a different location that they had looked at. And they actually got them to come over and be an employee with them. And they said to them, what is your goal? What do you want? If you were to, pull something out of this, what would you be looking to do and looking to, grow? And he was like, I've always wanted to drive a Porsche. He's like, that's what I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to drive a Porsche. And the franchisee said, all right, stick with me. We are going to build this. We're going to grow this. We're going to grow and expand. And I want you by me. And I want you to be able to one day drive that Porsche and one day be able to afford to do that. And my favorite part of the testimony is that employee saying that he did that and he achieved that. And he like stayed with them. He grew through the brand. He managed those brands to great success, grew the numbers in those the locations that he had, and was able to buy a Porsche. And I mean, How many people as an employee get to come in and say that, and be able to do that. And so I love that, not necessarily for, obviously the piece of like just the Porsche side of it, but just the goals and the setting the goal and the achieving that and knowing that he was able to do that within our system and get to that point within our system. Those are things for me that not only shows the success of our brands and what they can do with the brand, but also just the type of people that we bring in as franchisees and what they're looking to do and the relationships they want to have with their employees and just, what we're putting out there into the communities. I mean, for me, that's just also really heartfelt. And I love that about this. So it's, to have that combination and to have that where you can still have just a great thing you're putting into the community, but then also have what you look to achieve in your goal of growing, obviously your personal wealth and, getting that side in it too. To me, I was like, that's just such an amazing story that he was able to do that and able to achieve that. So it's probably one of my favorite success stories. And we have many like that. Like I said, the fact that we have multiple franchisees that have multi-unit and multi-brand speaks to what they can do with these brands.
Wow, that's so special. What a great story.
Yeah, I love it. I thought it was so neat. I was like, I just love that story. So, and
Yeah,
he of course tells it much better than I do, but
no, that's great.
but I just love that. So it's one I thought was at least worth sharing.
But for someone looking into franchising for the first time, what advice would you give them in terms of what to prioritize when selecting, the next business venture for them?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I've been doing this long enough that I love that question because I think that I do know how to really share with somebody, if you're looking at this, what's going to be the best. And, the first thing I will say is you need to know and understand that you like the family you're going to be joining, that, that is someplace that you're like, yeah, I like the brand. I like this industry. So, certainly look at the industries that are important to you. Then once you kind of narrow down those industries that are important, then pick the top brands in that, really look at when you're doing your research, who is listed as some of the top, brands within that industry and what is the top franchise brand within that industry, to make sure that they understand franchising, because that's going to tell you, do they get franchising? Do the people that are in there enjoy what they're doing and enjoy being a part of that brand? Then go through the process and actually follow. Do you like the people that are in there? Do you like, what they represent? Do you like what they're putting out to their franchisees? Are their franchisees, happy with what they have and what they're representing? Great validation is very important, and that will tell you whether or not the family that you're joining is a positive, strong one that you can, be happy being a part of. Because if they're not happy and if the franchisees are very unhappy, or if there's a lot of them looking to sell, obviously that tends to tell you that there's something with that family and that brand that maybe they want to, really dig deeper into and make sure that it's not just something where it was that person, maybe that person just didn't match up. But, for the most part, everyone else was good. But if it's kind of an overall, the overarching is that in general, it's not a very positive place to be. I think they'll see that right away when they're doing their due diligence on that brand. And so certainly I think making sure that you can live with them for, 15 years, our agreements are 15 years, most are 10 to 20, somewhere in that range. So you want to make sure that you want to live with them for that long and that you can, actually feel like that's something that you want to represent for that long. And I think you'll get that right away when you start talking with an organization. The first few conversations, obviously most people looking get someone in my role. And so, certainly right away, is that a match? Is that a fit? Not only in personality, but also in the information and, the wealth of what they bring to the table that they can share with you. And, is there depth there? Because if there is, then obviously that's going to carry on through the whole organization. If you're getting it from the very first person that you're talking to, you can bet you're going to get it through the rest of the organization. And so I think those are probably the most key things that people need to look at when they're joining a system. And, I think that's what makes it a very long-term thing for people, is whether or not you like the industry, you like the brand, and then you can marry into that family and feel very comfortable there.
Yeah. The marriage is just the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny. It's interesting because like people will think, oh, that's true. I didn't even think about the fact that, we're getting married for a while. So,
Yeah.
it's something that's very important to look at it and look. And at that point, you either renew or you decide to sell at the end of it. And if you decide to sell, great. Then you've obviously, spent the length of the term in it and you enjoyed your time there and it was the right fit for you.
Yeah, that's so great. Kelly, it's been a pleasure talking to you. If anybody's interested in the franchise opportunity at Full Speed of any of your 18 brands, but those
Yeah.
three that are growing, how can
Yeah.
they reach you?
Yeah, so anyone, you can certainly look at our website for any one of our brands. So you can go on that and fill in the information. All three of our brands have it available on the website, so you can look at those. So certainly the Grease Monkey, Speedy, or Quick Car. You can also contact directly. I mean, if they want to contact me directly, they're welcome to do that as well. I'm Kelly Tope at fullspeedautomotive.com. So they're welcome to reach out and get me directly, and I'm happy to guide them through the process.
Amazing. And we'll put all of that in
Yeah,
the show notes so that people
perfect.
can easily access it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We
Such a
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sounds good. You have a wonderful holiday.
Too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
We hope today's episode has provided you with valuable insights into the exciting world of franchising and the unique opportunities available to you. Remember, becoming a franchisee is a journey that starts with the right information and the right brand. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, and share it with others who might be interested in starting their own business. Stay tuned for more episodes where we bring you more franchise brands and more opportunities to help you find your perfect fit. For more information about our upcoming events, please visit franchiseshowinfo.com. Until next time, this is the National Franchise Show, helping you turn your entrepreneurial dreams into reality.